At OpenAI, this is the first time we were able to interface with an autonomous lab to carry out this large number of experiments at scale.
OpenAI has been collaborating with Ginkgo Bioworks. We're here today because there's been some results that beat state of the art.
So we were able to essentially cut the cost of cell-free protein synthesis by about 30%, a little more.
We knew that our models, the GPT series, was really good at computer science and math because we had a lot of training data for this. But we haven't really trained explicitly on biology. And part of the reason for this is biology is what we call kind of a hard problem. It's hard to generate the solutions and it's also difficult to verify. Whereas for things like math and physics, it can be hard to generate the solution, but it's usually easy to verify.
I think up until recently, there was a real belief that these models, they might be able to chat with you, but they weren't really able to solve these sort of harder scientific problems.
We decided to try to have GPT-5 actually design experiments that could be conducted on top of Ginkgo's cloud laboratory. And so rather than having humans design all the experiments and then physically run all the experiments and then analyze the data and then design the next set of experiments, we had GPT-5 design the experiments. We then were able to use code to translate those instructions from GPT-5 to run them on Ginkgo's cloud laboratory. And then we took the results of those experiments and fed them back into GPT-5 to analyze, to interpret the data, and then to design the next round of experiments. So one of the things that people tend to worry about when using AI models is hallucinations. Is the model going to make up something totally crazy? And would a human even miss it? And would we design and run an experiment that was just totally insane? I would say that wasn't our lived experience in this project. One of the reasons for that is the pydantic model, the interface we were using between the model and what we actually chose to run in the lab. Those experiments that the model designed had to be checked. The pydantic model was essentially a way to validate that experimental designs could be physically run in the lab. Was it laying out 384 well plates worth of experiments? Was it reserving certain columns for controls, both positive and negative controls? Was it reserving certain columns for standards so that we could do absolute protein quantification? Did it have the appropriate replication factor so that we would get reproducible results that we could stand behind? Was it using reagents that we actually had on hand and available at Ginkgo?
We will send 128 plates to Ginkgo. We will actually generate more than that because not 100% of the plates would pass the initial pydantic validation. And so we will generate usually around 2x amount, so 256 plates. And of the ones that pass validations, we still need to rank them somehow and take the top 128. And so we did this a few different ways. The first one was kind of recalling my experience at grad school where we had a separate model, pretend like it was a principal investigator, and this experimental design came from a postdoc in your lab. And you should evaluate the validity and the scientific rigor of these experiments, and this was scored on a rubric. The other set of rubrics we used was kind of checking the model's work. We wanted the model to kind of incorporate the previous experimental results as well as the state-of-the-art paper, and then to think very carefully about specific reaction components. And once all of these things pass and the model will get a high score on this rubric, we will prioritize sending that to Ginkgo. And we managed to achieve a 30 to 40% improvement over the current state-of-the-art in dollar per gram of protein in cell-free protein synthesis.
Whether due to the capabilities of GPT-5 or the pydantic model helping filter out some number of these experiments, combined with some of our grading and filtering of our own on our side. Out of the, 580 plates that we generated, only I think 2 of them had issues.
Out of that 580, I'm only aware of a couple plates that had what I would call flawed experimental designs. And so to me, that suggests having an AI co-scientist on my team as somebody who's interested in, has a particular scientific objective I want to achieve, lets me do better science. It lets me run more experiments by having access to an autonomous lab, and it lets those experiments, actually be correctly designed ones that are going to produce valuable insights.
It's almost like the humans are moving to a higher level of abstraction and doing kind of more of the fun, intellectually stimulating things, and letting the model and autonomous lab do kind of the more low-level, tedious work.
A marriage of basically a frontier model and this autonomous lab is a virtuous cycle. It gets us more data that will further improve the model, which will then allow us to conduct even better experiments, which then gets more data, which will make the model better. And so I think in many ways, both sides are absolutely critical to make this happen.